Hi, I'm Susan, and welcome to my tutorial. It's pumpkin time. Pumpkin spice is my favorite, and I love to make pumpkins. These fit in with so many of your cool bracelets and necklaces and things, you'll be surprised. Because they're just an autumn pumpkin, they go with so many things. Add them to your leaves, your flowers, and you follow my acorn tutorial. Make a whole harvest necklace or bracelet. You can make these dirty pumpkins with a glaze. You can keep them natural like this, or you can add some highlight to them and put a little glaze on top and make them shiny. So let's get started because they're so much fun. So to start with our pumpkins, you can use different colors of clay. You don't necessarily have to have all the same orange. This one has a little pearl in it, actually some glitter. It was left over from some flowers I was making. Here's a lighter yellowish orange, a deeper orange, and once again more of an iridescent orange. Now it doesn't matter that you have this full mix, it just matters if you want your pumpkin patch to have different colors. If you want them all the same, use one color, but you create them pretty much the same no matter what color you use, and you can get different effects just by what you use underneath. So I'm going to show you all of them and then you can decide. Now you can do them all the same. Your bracelet will be just as beautiful. So I'm using a cutter that I've figured out gives me just the perfect little size for a pumpkin. I would say with a ruler, it's about a 1/2 inch round. So you can see that. Now the thing about making a pumpkin is you can see all my folds and my distortions. The distortions I don't mind with the pearl clays. But you really want to make sure that you roll this, that there's no seams coming out. Now, you don't have to have perfectly round, even pumpkins. You don't want them to look like beach balls. Pumpkins naturally, the way they grow is irregular. So some of those irregularities actually are to our advantage. So don't make them too perfect, but you can see where I have these folds in there. You want to make sure you get those folds all out. So the easiest way to get those folds out is just push on them so that they blend in and then give them another roll. So if you have some long ones, some squatty ones, they will look more natural. So here this one has a little bit more of a squatty look to it, a long look to it. We'll do a squatty one next, but you can also do that when you form the little lines around it. And to make those lines, I use just a needle tool, very simple. Let me just do the 4 different colors so you can see the variations that we get. Oops. Now this one has just a little white inclusion that came off on it. I'm just going to fold that into itself. So you'll find in your art studio you just get little crumbs of clay from other things and they decide to jump in and annoy you. Just fold them in the middle. Nobody's going to see it. So we're going to make that one a little squatty one. Now the way I make my little separations in them is I put a imaginary spot there, an imaginary spot there. And what I'm going to do is try to take the side of my pin, my needle tool, and just lay that out in there. And I just continue to go around the pumpkin. Now don't worry that it's not all perfect and even. If you do it too perfect and even, it's going to look like a weird beach ball. If you really look at natural pumpkins, they're different. And it's the ugly pumpkins that I make the coolest things out of. So you can see there you've got your pumpkin. Now what I'm going to do is you're going to need a leaf cane. And come on, focus in. You're going to need your leaf cane to be pretty tiny to make those leaves so that they don't overpower the pumpkin there. And whoops, I don't know how I got dog hair on there. I even have a little piece of clay that's stuck from something else on there. That's fine because that looks more natural to me. So you're going to see the size of this leaf. I need to reduce it down to being very small. Now at the end of the cane I have all this waste. That is what I'm going to use for the stem of my pumpkin. So I'm going to cut that off because this piece normally You may want to throw that out. No, I'm going to slice it up, and I want actually the middle to come through. So I'm just going to roll it in my hand a bit. And this is what I'm going to make the little stems of the pumpkin. Oh, come on, there we go. And so I'm just going to roll it really fine. Of course it doesn't want to roll on camera. And this is the trickiest part, it's just getting it fine. Because the finer you get it, the easier it curls and gives those cool little curly cues. And see where it didn't match up there? Don't worry about it. The other end is perfectly nice, so I am going to use the end that didn't match up, and I'm going to make my curly cues. And this is what makes it look so cool in your jewelry, is these little odd, uneven curly cues and the colors, the way they flow and go in and out of each other. And now we're just going to add our leaves. So I've reduced my leaves and I left one end really tiny and one end larger. It's better to do your canes that way just because when you're working with something else, you may not want them all this tiny. It gives you a little bit of a variety without having to create a new cane. And now I'm just going to add the leaves up by the top there. And this one's only a little part of a leaf. That's okay. Just add it on. Now, I normally don't skewer these beads because I drill through them and I find it's better to just drill them once in case they come out uneven. If you're not going to drill them, you could skewer it now. You can skewer it straight across if you want this part of the bead to show, if you want to see this head part, or if you want it sideways like this, which is usually how I like it. I skewer it straight through this way. I'll drill it straight through this way. But I like to wait until after it's baked. It's just easier for me with these beads. They're the only beads I do that with. Now, if you decided that you wanted to make this a little more iridescent, I have some Pearl X copper powder, or you could use just straight up eyeshadow. And I'm just going to decorate it with my finger, because you don't really even need a brush. You just want so little on this. I just want it as a highlight. And I don't want it to get into the crevices, because if it goes in the crevices, I will lose that detail. Now, some of my other pumpkins, we're going to put a dark wash on them after they're baked to give them more of an aged look. So this is just a difference in different ways you want to do it. Now, I would not put the Pearl X powder on first, and people would ask me why. Because if I put the Pearl X powder on first, I'm afraid that the leaves may not stick well enough. And these being such delicate pieces, they may fall off. So you can see how you get that iridescent touch on this, which is very pretty, just a little bit different. And it just depends what you're looking for in your piece. Okay, so I've baked my pumpkins, and now it's time to put my dirty glaze. And I'm just going to use some Sculpey glaze. You can use any other glazes that are compatible with polymer clay. You can even use your Pledge floor wax, whatever. And I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of it into a cup. This is just a used cup that I like to recycle my stuff. And a little drop of this dark brown paint. And you'll understand when you see why I glaze these and I call it a dirty glaze. It's because I want to give it a more natural look. And so I have a wet brush, so it's got lots of water on it. And I'm just going to mix up my glaze. Now this is just a piece of uncooked clay, just a scrap piece of clay. And you'll understand what I did with that too, because I took a toothpick, put my little pumpkin on a toothpick now that I've drilled them out, and I am just going to literally paint it. Now I want the glaze to go into the crevices. I want it to look dirty. And so I'm just coating it. And normally you would say, why are you doing that? You'll see when it's done, they get a much more natural look. Now I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes while I do a few more. And then we're going to wipe it off. And you'll see the difference in the end when I show you all the pumpkins. So the toothpicks just work perfect as holding them, and the clay just is my other hand that I don't need to be bothered. So if you were doing 50 or 60 of these at a time, it wouldn't be such a big deal. Where if you tried to do this by hand one at a time, this would be pure insanity. Okay, so I finished glazing the rest of the pumpkins, and now I'm just going to take a dry baby wipe, and I'm just going to, whoops, it's not dry enough. So this is good for you to see. You need to have it sitting quite a bit, and you're just going to tap it so that you leave the dirt in the crevices, because we want these to be dirty pumpkins. It's a dirty glaze. And you say, why are you doing this? It will look different when I get all the pumpkins together. You'll see the difference. This is just a more natural look. If you don't like this look, skip this step. But here you can see the difference with the pumpkin that I just did, and the pumpkin, here's one that I didn't do, and here's one that I did do, and you see the difference. And this will dry matte on the left side, and so it just will give so much more of a realistic look when we put it in our bracelet, that you may want to do this step. If you don't like this step, it's still a cute, wonderful little pumpkin, so it is not a totally necessary step, it's just a choice. And I'd like to show you the different options. So I finished up doing the glazing technique. These are the dirty pumpkins. These are the ones that are highlighted with a little pearl-X. Like I said, you could use some eyeshadow if you have that's a little iridescent coppery. Most people don't wear that color anyway. Comes in those kits. I wanted to show you close up what it looks like. So this is the pearl one and how it has an iridescent to it. The middle one is the dirty pumpkin, which has that dirty glaze that makes it more natural looking. And then this is just a plain pumpkin, so you don't have to do anything to it. So just pick which one you like best, and that's the one you make. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have fun building your bead stash. Thanks for watching.